A helpless old woman's two hands are tied tightly, and she is being dragged to court. Crying and screaming, she can't get away from the general's grasp. Jalal is going to cut off the old woman's two hands. The old woman cried a heartbreaking cry. She pleaded, "O servant of Allah, General, please let me go. My helpless orphan grandchildren in my house have been lying on their deathbeds, starving for 3 days." But the general is not paying attention to the old woman's cry. The old woman is being dragged to court. What great crime has this old woman committed that she can't find freedom from the general's grasp, despite her crying and screaming? Just moments after arriving at the court, today the old woman's two hands will be cut off. Everyone's heart is filled with this fear, but there is one belief: Harun. The golden age of the Muslim world, the reign of the Caliph Harun al-Rashid, that just Caliph, in whose era justice was established on earth. So the question arises, what great crime did this old woman commit? What injustice is pushing her towards such a tragic punishment? Hearing it will make your heart tremble. And within this lies a lesson for the whole world. At that time, the famous city of Raqqa in Syria. One day, a letter suddenly arrived at the court of the Caliph of Baghdad, Harun al-Rashid, from the city of Raqqa. The letter said, "O our Caliph, the judge of the city of Raqqa has been sick for a month. All court activities have been suspended. People are not getting justice, and the hopes of those who seek justice are being shattered every day. Please quickly arrange and send a new judge." The Caliph read the letter and immediately sent a reply. A new judge will come to the city of Raqqa and take over the responsibility of justice within the next week. And indeed, within a week, a new judge joined the city of Raqqa. But no one knew who this new judge was. In disguise as a judge, the Caliph Harun al-Rashid himself came from the capital city of Baghdad to the city of Raqqa. And as soon as he sat on the seat of justice, an astonishing event was about to unfold. The guards and the general of the city of Raqqa arrested the old woman with a rope tied to her hands and brought her to court. The new judge asked, "On what charge has she been arrested?" The guards all replied, "Sir, this old woman has stolen some bread and a jar of honey from a food shop. We caught her red-handed." The old woman's face was wrinkled, and tears were streaming from her eyes. Her hands were tied, and she was trembling. Seeing this condition, the judge said, "Untie the old woman's hands." The general untied her hands. The judge asked the general, "Has this elderly old woman committed the crime of theft?" The general replied, "Yes, sir, we have brought the old woman to court because she has committed a crime." The judge then looked at the old woman and said, "Did you really steal, mother?" The old woman, with a trembling voice, she replied, "Yes, sir, I did steal." The judge said, "Do you know, mother, that stealing is a great sin according to Islamic Sharia, and you will have to suffer the punishment of the court?" The old woman stood firm in telling the truth and said with a tearful voice, "Yes, sir, I know that stealing is a great sin. I am a great offender and worthy of punishment." The judge was a little surprised, looked at her face for a moment, and then asked in a comforting voice, "Then why, mother, did you do this, knowing and understanding all this?" The old woman was very hesitant to answer now. She didn't want to speak, she just cried. The judge said, "Old woman, I have understood 99% of your crime. There is only 1% left. Tell me this much without hesitation, mother." Finally, the old woman, with a tearful and crying voice, presented a heartbreaking and horrifying statement, saying, "Sir, what I am about to say is more shameful to me than any punishment, but since it is your command, I must say it. I have been starving for the last week, and my grandchildren are orphans. They are crying day and night from the agony of hunger. I couldn't bear to see their miserable faces, sir. So I was forced to steal bread and honey from the bread shop. I had no other choice, sir." Hearing this, everyone in the court was stunned. Everyone was shocked. Now the old woman's hands would be cut off. Meanwhile, the executioner was waiting with his big knife. The old woman's hands would be cut off as soon as the verdict was announced. Amidst this murmuring, there was another scene. When the people present looked at the judge, they were all astonished by what they saw. What a strange sight! The judge's two eyes were overflowing with tears, which were flowing down and wetting his chest. With those tearful eyes, he looked at the old woman in silence for a while. Then he said, "The verdict of this case will not be announced today. The punishment will be announced tomorrow morning." He immediately ordered the general to beat the drum in the city of Raqqa so that tomorrow morning, the city's head, the head of the food warehouse, the police chief, and all the respectable people of the society should be present in this court. and then the verdict of this case would be announced. Then the people present began to murmur, "What kind of a judge has Harun al-Rashid sent to our country? The trial of a criminal has to be done tomorrow." Actually, no one understood that this judge was none other than the Caliph of Baghdad, Harun al-Rashid, himself in disguise as a judge. Meanwhile, according to the judge's order, the general and the guards beat the drum in the city of Raqqa. The next day, the court was crowded with people. All the respectable people of the city came to the court. The court premises were full of people who came to see. According to Muslim Sharia, the hands of the criminal old woman would be cut off today. But the Caliph Harun al-Rashid had proved how meticulous and subtle the Muslim Sharia law is. Sitting on the throne, the judge announced, "It has been proven that the old woman's crime of theft is true. Punishment will be given according to Sharia. So bring the person who can whip the hardest quickly. He will be whipped 50 times along with a fine of 500 dinars in gold coins and 1 year of imprisonment." However, because the old woman has confessed the truth, the punishment of cutting off her hands has been waived. Hearing this announcement, a low murmur started again in the court. The judge then looked at the guards and said again, "Bring the whip quickly." Everyone thought to themselves that this weak old woman, let alone 50 whips, would die from a single whip. While they were discussing this, another scene appeared before their eyes. Suddenly, the judge was seen getting down from the throne and standing next to the old woman. He stood up and said in a grave voice, "First, imprison this general. The reason is, the old woman is very old. No matter what injustice she has done, she is weak. Where could she have run away? So why did her 2 hands have to be tied? Secondly, why did the general make the weak old woman walk to the court when there were horse-drawn carriages available? Because of this, he should be imprisoned for 1 year. Finally, he said, "O our countrymen, you must remember that in a city where an old woman is forced to steal out of hunger, the biggest criminals of that country are the king or the caliph. And I am one of the representatives of that king. So it was my fault in governing for so long that my kingdom is in this miserable state today. Therefore the first 20 whips should be struck on my body." Saying this, the judge held out his 2 hands to the whip-carrying guard. Hearing this, the entire court was stunned. But there was no way for anyone to disobey the judge's order. The whip-carrying guard came forward. Unwillingly, he began to whip the judge's 2 hands. From the whip's strike, blood spurted from the judge's hands. But there was no sound of pain from the judge's mouth. He just took out a handkerchief from his pocket and wiped the wound. The guards trembled and came forward to tie his hands. But even in that state, the judge stopped them and said, "There is no room for mercy in the face of justice." With his 2 bleeding hands, he then announced, "The city's main head, the head of the food warehouse, and the respectable people of the society who could not provide for a poor woman are also criminals. So the remaining 30 whips should be equally distributed among them." Upon receiving the order, the whip-carrying guard was forced to. He whipped the city's head and other officials who were present in front of the public. Then the judge took out 50 gold coins from his pocket and placed them on the floor. And he said, "The society that turns an old woman into a thief out of hunger, the society where orphan children starve without food, everyone in that society is a criminal. So everyone present here today is fined 100 dinars in gold coins." There was no way to disobey such a judge's order. Everyone paid the fine one by one. A total of 500 dinars was collected. The judge announced, "Out of these 500 dinars, 20 dinars should be given to the owner of the shop from which the old woman stole the bread. And the remaining 480 dinars should be handed over to this old woman." The old woman then said with tearful eyes and folded hands, "Sir, I am a convict. How can I take this money? I am worthy of punishment. Yet you have wounded your own hands for me. Please give me my full punishment now, sir." Then the benevolent judge, with his wounded hand, held the old woman's hand and said, No, my dear mother, you are not a convict. The real convict is me, and this society, the society that has kept you starving for 7 days. So you are never a criminal, old woman." Everyone was stunned. The royal court and the Muslim world seemed to have become a new place of learning. Finally, the judge said, "Next month, this old woman, accompanied by the present guards, should be present at the court of the Caliph of Baghdad, because the Caliph will personally apologize to the old woman with his own hands." Exactly 1 month later, the guards from the city of Raqqa set off with the old woman in a horse-drawn carriage to go to the Golden Court of Baghdad. After some time, they reached Baghdad. They left the horse-drawn carriage in front of the gate and entered the Caliph's golden court with the old woman. Everyone was surprised because the judge who had presided over the old woman's case in the city of Raqqa was sitting on the Caliph's throne. The old woman also began to tremble. With a trembling body, the old woman slowly walked towards the Caliph. Upon seeing the guest, the Caliph stood up, got down from the throne, and first of all held the old woman's hand and said, "That day I apologized to you as a judge. And today I apologize to you as a Caliph mother. I have failed to provide food for your grandchildren. I have failed to free you from the agony of hunger. I have failed to prevent a weak and old person like you from being dragged to court with your hands tied. Please forgive me just this once, mother. Otherwise Allah will not forgive me. I am your king, the Caliph of this country." Hearing this, the old woman's eyes filled with tears. The guests in the court, along with the soldiers and thousands of people present, cried at this sight. Finally, my friend, write in the comments of this video from your heart, "Oh Allah, give us leaders and administrators like this." Share, subscribe and trust in Allah.